In this video, we'll go over array structure. An array is a structure that can hold multiple values of the same type, and these values are stored under the same variable name. Arrays are very useful, and you're going to use them a lot in your projects. The first thing you want to know about arrays is how to declare them. So let's declare an integer array. You start with the type integer and then the name of the array. Let's call it A. And then inside brackets, the size of the array, meaning the number of values that it can hold. Let's say in this case 3. So I have declared an array of size 3, and the 3 variables are now A at index 0, A at index 1, and A at index 2. And currently, there's no valid value in those storage places. There's just garbage in there. Now let's initialize these variables. Let's say A at index 0, I'm going to store number 10, integer 10 in there. A at index 1 will have integer 20, and then A at index 2 will have integer 30. Now I have basically initialized those 3 variables, and I can actually take a look at them. I can use cout and print the content of those variables. A at 0, and then a bit of space. Let's go at A1, 1 space in there, and then let's have A2 and end line. Now we can run this program. And here we go. Here are the numbers, 10, 20, and 30. These are the values stored in our array, basically. Okay, now we can actually combine the elements of the array and store it in another variable. For example, I can declare integer, let's say B, and store in there the value at index 0 of the array, and add to it the value at index, let's say 2 of the array. And we can take a look at what is stored in B now. B is equal to the sum of the values in array cell 0 and array cell 2. So this will be B, end line, and now we run the program, and the output is 40 as expected, 10 plus 30. Now oftentimes when an array is declared, the size of the array is basically declared as a constant. We'll actually declare constant integer, let's say size, and assign to it the size of the array, let's say 5. And then we declare our array, let's say declare another array, character array, call the array C, and the size of the array we use the constant. This is very typical, very common to use this syntax. So the character array C is declared in line 14, and the size of it is 5. We can basically now assign values to the elements of this array. C of 0, I can assign the character A in there, for example. And then C of 1, we can assign to it character percentage, and so on. The rest of the characters can be assigned as well, all the way up to C of 4, right? That's the upper bound for the indices. It starts from 0 and goes all the way up to 4 because the size of the array is 5. The indices start at 0, and I can place the character 2 in there. And we can print the values as well using cout. Also, in C++, we can use ArrayIntro. In an array initializer, let's say I can declare this integer array. Let's call it D, and brackets, but empty brackets. And then right after the brackets have the equal sign, and then inside braces initialize the array. For example, here I can assign 2, 3, 4, and 5, let's say. That's the array. This is array initializer. We have declared the array D and initialized it to have elements 2, 3, 4, and 5. Notice that the size of the array is not given. The system automatically recognizes that this array will have 4 elements. And D of 0, starting with D of 0, which will have value 2, all the way to D of 3, which will have the value of 5. So those are the variables in this array. We can also use this array initializer in a different way. I can declare integer, let's say array E, and give it a size, let's say 10. The size of this array is 10. It's going to have 10 elements, but at the same time use the array initializer. I can actually place 10 values in this array initializer, but at the same time I can actually initialize the array partially. Let's say it is 10 and 20. I can place those in there. So I have declared an array of size 10, used array initializer to initialize E of 0 to 10 and E of 1 to 20. And then what happens here, what about the rest of the array elements? They are all initialized to 0. So E of 2 will be equal to 0 all the way up to E of 9. And that will also be initialized to 0. Right? Once again, we can use cout and take a look at the values. For example, let's take a look at C of 1. Right, I'm printing the character array C. The percentage should be displayed in there. And then let's pick an element out of D. D of, let's say, 0 should be 2. And then also let's take a look at the array E, and in particular let's look at E of 5, which should be 0. Right? So the last output should be C of 1, which is percentage, D of 0, which is 2, and then E of 5, which is going to be initialized to 0. So let's run this. And we have, yes, we have the percentage, the 2, and the 0.